Welcome back to the Huddle. This is the coach. We talked about the chaos on the football field, especially if you don't know what position's what. So we covered the offense, the guys trying to score the points. Now we're going to cover the defense, the guys trying to stop them. Okay, first to start off, we're going to start with the defensive line. Okay, the inverse of the offensive line. They're the other big guys on the field. They're going to line up right across from the offensive line. So the defensive line can be broken up. We got the DL. Just like on offense, there's different types of defensive linemen. We'll talk a little bit about them, but the grand scheme of what they're trying to get done is the same. So we'll split our defensive line up into the defensive ends, right? Or the ends, the D ends, the DE is what we'll tag it as. Or you got defensive tackles. Okay, the tackles are going to be the guys that are interior. The ends are going to be guys on the exterior. So we'll put DT and DE. So we're going to draw up a four-man front, which means there's four guys in the defensive line room. So I'm going to put a D end on both sides, and then I'm going to put a D tackle, two of them on the inside. Now, they're lined up in a certain alignment. That's a certain type of front. We'll cover that in a later series, going over what type of fronts there are on defense, and then we'll get into coverages and all that good stuff. Okay, so the defensive line, their job is to create havoc at the line of scrimmage. We talked about the O-line trying to move people in the run game. The D-line, their job is to not get moved. They got to be violent and physical up front. They got to try to create some knockback to make it hard for the running back to be able to run in running lanes. Okay. Then, just like the offensive line in the pass game, the offensive line's trying to protect the quarterback from the defensive line. The defensive line are the big guys on the other side, pretty athletic, and they're trying to get after the quarterback. They're trying to go sack the quarterback, make big plays. So when the quarterback is dropping back for a pass, they're trying to rush the quarterback, get past the big O-lineman, and tackle the quarterback before he can get the ball off. So understand the defensive line is very important, because if you can't stop the run game without a good defensive line, they got to create havoc on the line of scrimmage, plug up gaps, which we're going to have a series talking about gaps, fits, run game, all of that stuff in the future. If you're interested, make sure you drop a comment. So the defensive line, when it's a run game, they're trying to plug up gaps, get off blocks, and make tackles, right, and keep O-linemen off of the linebackers. In the pass game, they're trying to get after the quarterback, get past the O-lineman, and tackle the quarterback when he's throwing the football. Okay, next we're going to cover is the linebackers, and we just kind of mentioned them. The D-line's trying to help out the linebackers, make their job easier. Okay, so the D-line is the first level of defense. The linebackers is what we would call the second level of defense. They're second level defenders. Okay, I'm going to draw that D-line back up there, right? We had our D ends, our D tackles. Now I'm going to draw our linebackers. Okay, so I'm going to draw a linebacker here, and then we'll draw a linebacker here. Okay, now I have three linebackers here, and understand they're kind of like the quarterback of the defense sometimes. They're pretty athletic, but they're also pretty big and physical. They got to kind of be a hybrid between quick guys and big, strong guys. Okay, these guys are the ones that have to fill the gaps that are open, because we only have 4 defensive linemen lined up here, and there's 5 offensive linemen. So we got to use linebackers to fill the open gaps to tackle the running back. So in the run game, they got to make sure they fit the run and tackle the running back, do a great job of tracking the ball carrier and fitting where they're supposed to. In the pass game, they have to help. They're usually underneath cover guys trying to assist the third level of defense, which we call the defensive backs, and we break those into 2 different categories. Okay, the linebackers, the cleanup crew when the defensive line creates havoc at the line of scrimmage. So the next position we're going to talk about is the safeties. Now, the safeties are part of the third level. There's two different position groups in the third level, all right? And so I'm going to bring both these out here so you can see it. You got safeties and you got cornerbacks. Now, if you put the safeties and the cornerbacks together, we call those the defensive backs. Defensive backs. Well, how would we abbreviate that? We would abbreviate that as DBs. Okay? We separate them because their jobs can be very different at times. So, our safeties are going to typically be lined up on the number 2 receiver, which we'll get into a little bit more about what that means later on in our series. And our cornerbacks are going to be lined up out here on number 1. Okay, being a DB is tough because they're the ones that everybody notices when they mess up. Okay, they're the last line of defense in the pass game. So starting with safeties, okay, they have to cover the number 2 receiver. Safety's got to be a mix between a guy that covers great in the pass game, has to be able to play man-to-man and zone coverage, which we'll cover later date, and they have to be able to fit in the run game. Some defenses, the linebackers are the commanders of the defense. Other defenses, the safeties are the commanders of the defense. It just kind of depends on the scheme that you're running and who you want to be in charge. When the ball's thrown, these guys have to bat down passes. They have to be able to create turnovers by intercepting the football from the quarterback, right? They're kind of hybrid guys. The cornerbacks are the furthest outside guys. They got to be able, they're probably the most athletic dudes on your defense. They got to be able to run fast. They cover the wide receivers. Okay, remember, receivers are running routes trying to get open. Well, our cornerbacks are covering the outside receivers trying to make sure they don't get open. Most of the time, the cornerbacks don't have to be in the run game and fit the run, depending on the scheme. Safeties have to be in the run game a lot more often than the corners. But remember, the safeties and the cornerbacks, they're both defensive backs. So you'll hear that term used a lot. The DB's got to do a better job here in the pass game. Understand, these guys have hard jobs to do on Saturdays and Sundays, and they get criticized the worst because everybody knows when they mess up. So that's the defensive personnel. You can see here we have 4 defensive linemen. We have 3 linebackers, which leaves us with 4 DBs. So understand, we would call that a 4-3 defense. If you're really interested about what a 4-3 defense is, a 4-2-5, a 3-4, a 3-3-5, and I'm just spitting out numbers here, these are all different defensive schemes that we can get into depth about later on in the series. So as always, remember, we're here to learn about football. Offense sells tickets because it's explosive, but defense wins championships. I'll see you guys next time. If you got any questions, drop them in the comment section below.